Welcome back, everyone, to more of our custom career mode and career experience. And today's video is all about the super lates, not just on the asphalt, but also on the dirt. This is also what appears to be the final season before things really start to come together on the career paths. We're going to have some paths merge together. Up until now, we've had dirt drivers on the dirt path. They started out in the midgets. Now they're in the super lates on the dirt side. But the next step for them is onto the asphalt side with the ARCA series. And the same thing so far with the asphalt side. They started out in the super late models, and now it's time for them to move up to the ARCA series. We've got a total of 5 drivers that are looking for, well, a maximum of 4 slots in the ARCA series. So how does it all play out? That's what we're going to find out today. We've already had some drivers that have made strong cases in the past up until now with their performance. Now we're going to find out how the seasons go in the super lates. So let's hop over to the simulated seasons, and we're going to continue on with our dirt program. We already know that Jade Avedizian has had an amazing start to the season. She has taken to the dirt super lates perfectly. She has 6 top 5s and 8 top 10s in the first 10 races. So she is off to a fantastic start. Kaylee Bryson, well, she's done fantastic in the past. She was our very first driver in the midgets. She did great in the midgets, and she hasn't done quite as well as Jade so far, but she's sitting here just 1 spot behind her in the points. So it's hard to argue very much against Kaylee as well. The trouble spot so far on performance has been Taylor. She has not been up to par so far. She only has 1 top 5 and 5 top 10s, which isn't the end of the world, but her point standing leaves a lot to be desired. She's back in 13th, and I'm looking for no worse than 7th or 8th at the absolute worst. So she's got some work to do so far. So let's see how things move forward. So let's generate some race finishes. And again, we're going to start to look forward a bit. Now I'm going to move things forward until we can just see these guys on the point standings. And remember, we're looking at this row and below. So we're going to go ahead and do the first 20 races here highlighted. So here we go. Race number 11. And okay, there we go. We talked about Taylor. She needs to bring it up. A 3rd place finish. That will certainly help. And then a 4th place from Jade. 6th position from Kaylee. Yeah, that's a lot to be happy about with those results. And that will certainly help in the point standings. Race number 12, what do we get? Well, Jade, once again, top 5. She's on the podium again. 10th, 7th. Okay, those are not terrible. If we can just consistently stay in the top 10 with our drivers, things will work out. Already after just a couple more races, you can see that we've moved up to 5th, 6th, and 8th. So from 13th to 8th for Taylor, that is a very good start to today's video. All right, race number 13. Oof. Okay, not so much here for Jade, but we're going to give her a pass. She's had a few bad races along the way, but when you've been as consistent as she has been overall, I'm certainly not going to say anything there other than that. 6th and 8th, okay, so not terrible. We want top 5s, obviously, but top 10s will work. All right, race number 14. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Taylor jumping up 2nd position overall. Kaylee, not so much. Jade, 15th isn't the end of the world, but again, certainly not what we're looking for. We need top 5s and top 10s, and you also notice our win column is still empty. We have yet to get our first win, and we're 14 races into the season. Meanwhile, we take a look to the top, and we got a couple of drivers here who have 3 wins each. So we're way behind in that department. But overall, points 5th, 6th, and 7th. So not a bad start. Okay, race number 15. We're 6, 7, and 8. Or excuse me, 7, 8, and 17. I got to looking at the wrong one there. I got excited about that 6th place finish. So not quite what we were looking for there, but 2 of the 3 in the top 10. Still looking for that first win. Who's going to bring it to us? Somebody will. It's just a question of when it's going to happen. Once again, not only did we have 2 of the 3 in the top 10, we had 2 of the 3 in the top 5. Kaylee, well, not so much in that race. All right, race number 17, and there it is. Our very first win. So maybe Kaylee was feeling a little bit down after race number 16 and getting into the 30th position, not even making the A main. So she comes home with our very first team victory. That is what we're looking for. So now after 17 races, we're sitting here 5th, 6th, and 9th in points. So still not quite what we're looking for, but we're getting there. I'm seeing some consistency, and of course Jade is continuing to do what she's been doing the entire season, which is have consistent top 5 and top 10 runs. All right, Kaylee in race number 18 comes back with a strong finish inside the top 5. Taylor, 6th position. Jade, not quite as good, but she's still making A mains. As long as you're in that top 25, you're making it to the A main, and that is job number 1. All right, race 19, and let's go ahead and do race 20, and then we'll get a bit of a recap after that. So race 19, only 1 driver in the top 5. Kaylee brings it home there. Then race 20, once again, only 1 driver in the top 5 in 3rd. So a podium there. So let's scroll back over for just a moment before we continue on. And we're sitting here 5th, 6th, and 8th. In my mind, unless things just go completely awry, Jade has sewn up her spot in the ARCA series, assuming all the money works out, of course. She's sewn up her spot there. So it's a non-issue moving forward, again, unless things just completely fall apart. Same thing for Kaylee. Kaylee Bryson has done amazingly well up until this point, and while she might not be having the season Jade is here in the Dirt Superlates, she's done enough up to this point and including this that she's moving forward. So no issue there. And at this point, Taylor, I think, is doing okay. If you look at her top 10s here, not too bad. She's top 10 in over half the races so far, in 12 of the 20. And she's had some top 5s. Again, not quite as strong as Jade. Jade at this point is in a league of her own on the team. She is definitely the leader. So all 3 of those are really not doing bad at all. I would like to see Taylor do better, but there's nothing there to discourage me from moving her up. Now, the real interesting thing is when we get over to the asphalt side a little bit later in today's video, what are we going to see there? Because we got 2 drivers there that really want to move up, but only 1 is showing the performance. So a total of 4 slots, 5 drivers. We'll just have to wait and see. So at this point, before we start copy and pasting anything over onto the series screen, let's go ahead and run some more races. All right, so I'm going to scroll this as far over as I can. So now we can't really see the point standings anymore, but I'm going to go ahead and highlight up through race 27. All right, so let's see what we get. Race 21. All right, Taylor jumps in with that top 5. So we had a couple of drivers in the top 10. So that'll work. That's good. And we get our second team victory, as you see right over here. And by the way, let's see how this works out. If I press Control, you can see, okay, yeah, that brings up an additional menu I don't really want. But if I press Control, Windows has a function where it essentially, instead of highlighting, it just brings up a ring around where the cursor is. Not a big fan of that, but hey, I guess in a pinch, maybe that'll work every once in a while. Even though it brings up an additional menu in Excel we don't really need. But we do get our second race victory of the season. This time, Jade is on the board with her first victory. But more importantly than that, really, is all 3 drivers were in the top 10. All right, moving on to race 23. Once again, Taylor, out of the last 4 races, she has been incredibly strong. 4 top 10s, 3 of the 4 races, she's in the top 5. So that is the way that you come roaring back from maybe a start to the season that is a little bit less than you had hoped for. All right, another strong run there for Taylor. Top 10. We got a top 5 here for Jade. Not quite as good here. Kaylee is not having the last 5 races that she wants to have. So she's looking to pick it up here beginning with race 25. And sure enough, that's how you pick it up. She picks up a race victory, her second of the season. So yeah, that is how you come roaring back. Unfortunately, Taylor didn't have a good race, didn't make it to the A main this time. All right, race 26, Kaylee once again in the top 5. And Taylor just missed the top 5, but all 3 drivers in the top 10. All right, our final race that we're actually going to be able to see before we need to scroll things back over. And okay, yep. By the way, the team just above us, I mean, that is some fantastic finishes for them. But for us, not too bad. 2 of our 3 drivers in the top 5. So again, it is hard to be unhappy about that. So as we finish up the first 27 races and the ones that we can really see here on the side, 3rd, 6th, and 8th, not too bad. Again, we would like to be contending up here with the guys at the top. Now, there are some reasons why it is more difficult for us here at the bottom of the grid than at the top. I won't go into those here today, but those of you who like to tinker around with the spreadsheet, maybe look at how things are generated, you'll be able to see how that is done. But the guys at the top here, I mean, 6 wins, 3 wins. I would love to have some of those same statistics down here for us, but I'm anything but upset. And there's a reason why I put us at the bottom. We could have very easily been at the top. There's no reason why we couldn't have been at the top or in the middle or anywhere else we wanted to be. But I put us at the bottom on purpose. I wanted to make it a little bit tougher on us. But at the end of the day, we have 3 total team wins for the season. 3, 6, and 8 for our team cars. No shame in finishing behind the likes of Brandon Shepard, Ricky Thornton Jr., and of course, Jonathan Davenport, who's having a miraculous season this year in the Super Lates. Talking about real life here for a moment, the big races that he's won this season, including one very recently in the North-South 100. So none of these guys are slouches for sure, and definitely deserve to have several wins in the season. But Brandon Shepard so far is putting on a clinic. So now at this point, let's go ahead and finish off the full 50 races, and let's keep an eye on the points, the wins, and the top 10. So we'll keep an eye on all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those, all of those, to make it a little bit easier, hopefully, for you guys to see. And let's run through some of these. Okay, there's another race win. Hey, I'll take that. So Jade has her 2nd win of the season in race 28. Not bad at all. So again, keeping an eye out on a few different things. Mainly the points and the wins right now are what I'm looking for, because nothing gets me more excited than seeing one of our team cars in victory lane. There at the end of the 32nd race, you might have noticed Kaylee Bryson now jumps up into the top 5 in points. So that makes us 3, 4, and 7. All right, so if we can stay there and get really all 3 of our cars, not only the top 5 maybe, but in the top 7 or 8, then I will be a happy man by the end of the season. All right, so Jade not having a good last couple of races. You notice that she's now jumped outside of the top 5 briefly in points. Let's hope she comes back, though. There we go. This time it was Kaylee's turn to drop down a bit. So right now things are just so close in the points. Again, if you look at the season points and sort of track where we are, right now we're 5, 6, and 7. So that's pretty easy to keep track of. But if you look at where we are in points and then you track up a little bit and find Ricky Thornton Jr. in 4th, 984 to 979. So that is extremely close in points. And that's why you're seeing some big swings in the points from time to time. RTJ having a very good season there with 4 wins. All right, so as we close in on 40 races, well, looks like we have sort of worked our way in to 5, 6, and 7 here in the points, falling behind a little bit behind RTJ up here in 4th position. But at this point, all 3 of our drivers have at least 1 victory on the season. All right, moving on, race 41. All right, we're trying to move back up the ladder. Kaylee is now up into 3rd in the points. So, yeah, Ricky Thornton Jr. not having a good last few races. All right, so let's see if we can get, as races start to wind down, we're 43 races into the season. Kaylee Bryson making a late season charge at a top 5 finish, 6th and 7th here for the other 2 drivers. So Jade has fallen off a little bit. You notice that on top 10s, well, Kaylee has nearly caught her there. In fact, Kaylee and Taylor have nearly caught her in overall top 10s. She's still ahead on the top 5s, but what that really tells you is that she's had several finishes that were outside the A main. So 26th or worse in general. So yeah, she's had a little bit less consistency here in the last half of the season. All right, so let's keep going as we get closer and closer. I'm really wanting to see at least 2 of our drivers bring it home inside the top 5. We can't be that far out of the top 5. Let's take a quick look. RTJ at 12:20. We're at 12:13. Okay, that's pretty close. Now, 4th, on the other hand, 12:46, that's a bit of a jump at this point of the season after 45 races, but a top 5 seems doable. That's 7 points out right now. Let's see if we can't get that done. We're falling behind a little bit now as we finish up the season, so it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Not without some help anyway. Not without some help. So we got one final race, and then let's take a look at what I believe are some amazing statistics here toward the end of the season. So our 50th race, and yeah, you want to talk about an end to the season. I hadn't pointed it out just yet, but if you take a look at what Kaylee has done, Kaylee Bryson has been on fire. And here in just a moment, we'll scroll over and actually see the race finishes. She ends the season with 8 race wins. That is how you climb in the point standings. She also ends up with 35 top 10s, not quite the most in the series. As you notice, Brandon Shepherd, 40. Wow, that is some serious results. 21 top 5s. Once again, not quite the top in the series, but very, very close. So at the end of the day, Kaylee Bryson is showing us, while she has been, up to this point, the leader in our dirt program. Kaylee Bryson has been the one getting it done, and the end of her season was amazing. She ends up 2nd, but hey, the other 2, 6th and 7th, that is not bad either. But wow. At the beginning of the season, Jade is the one who took to the dirt super lates. She had the feel, she was getting the finishes. An amazing consistency. But by the end of the season, Kaylee caught up, and 8 victories. Let's scroll over now and take a look at exactly how this thing ended. So I'm going to highlight the row for Kaylee, and we're going to focus on her as we get to the end. All right, there's the 50th race. Just look at this. Look at the finishes she had. All right, so we get a win in race 36, back-to-back wins in 41 and 42. Then we have a 24th place finish, so essentially around the back of the field in the A main. But then we reel off 2 more victories. So in a span of 5 races, she had 4 wins. Then she finishes 2nd, 5th, 1st, 5th, and 2nd. So Yeah, that's how you finish off a season and make up a lot of points very, very quickly. Her last 10 races were amazing. I mean, what's the average finish on that? The average finish is 4th. And the only reason it's that low is because she had a 24th in there. You take that out, and her average finish is about 2nd, if you look at it. Wow. That is huge for her. All right, now we've got these victories. Let's go ahead and let's run some asphalt super late model races, and then we'll deal with the copy and pasting of the rest of this. So let's go ahead and move over to, let's see, that'll be series number 5 will be our super lates. Now remember, in the super lates, we're only running 20 races here in this series on the asphalt side. I did that for a couple of reasons. In the default schedules or the example schedules that I throw into the career experience for you guys, I wanted to ramp up the number of races in the season as you worked your way up through the asphalt side of things. So I started with 20 here. You get a few more than that as you move up into the trucks, and then a few more into Xfinity, and then finally the maximum when you get into Cup. So that was one of the main reasons why I did that. At least on the asphalt side. But on the dirt side, these guys are racing multiple times per week, and it could have easily gone more than 50 on a schedule for them had I not already set the limit there at the 50. Okay, so now let's bring things back over. Let's go ahead and get the super late, and here we go. All right, let's get everything lined up here. Everything on screen. Now, of course, we need to first clear out these race results from the previous season. We'll get rid of those. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's going on here in the super lates on the asphalt side of things. Carson Kvapil has not been performing up to par, especially when compared to Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith has been the leader of these two. Now, obviously, Bubba Pollard has been doing amazing. Stephen Nasse has done just fine for himself. But these are the two that are vying for a spot in the ARCA series. Now, remember, the ARCA series here in the career experience is very different from what it is in real life. In real life, it is pretty much a joke at this point. There's only a handful of cars that even participate full time. It does not have the backing that it once did. So here in the career experience, though, ARCA is a little bit different. And you'll see that once we move up into with the drivers that we're going to bring into the series to compete. It will definitely not be anything like it is in real life. We're going to have a tough crowd to compete against. But you do notice that we have all 4 of our teams are Tier 1. Carson has not been a Tier 1. He has been Tier 2, even though as a driver, they're all the same. At least I believe that is the case. Let's actually go over and check real quick. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I've been wrong before. Let's actually scroll up. And no, Carson is actually been behind a little bit. So the latest of our dynamic adjustments have really helped him out. In fact, let's go ahead and do a little training for him. Let's put him on equal footing with Sammy as well as the other 2 drivers as well. So let's hop over to the driver training and let's see, let's find him. All right, so now that we've found Carson in the list, he's driver number 163. Let's go ahead and purchase that upgrade for 16, just as we've already done for Sammy Smith. So actually, I should have done this a little bit earlier, but simply forgot about it. Had it on my mind to do and then moved on. My brain was on to the next task. All right, so that's going to even things up. So now everybody's a level 16. Everybody's on level footing. So that's good. That's what we want. Let's go ahead and scroll this back over because we're definitely going to need to do that coming up shortly. All right, so simulated seasons. Now everybody is a Tier 1, as we talked about, but now Carson should have a little bit more wiggle room there in the series. The good news is we don't really have to worry about how much wiggle room he's got. All right, so let's generate some race finishes. We're looking for 20 races, and we're looking to see specifically Carson and Sammy. Sammy already has the lead in my mind right now because of his past performance. But now that they're both equal driver ratings, let's see what we get. All right, so we start off the season, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight Bubba Pollard so that we'll know exactly which part of the screen we're looking at over here on the right as we fill in each race. But Sammy Smith, great start to the year inside the top 5. Then, Carson Kvapil is going to answer him right back in race 2. They both have great finishes there. I mean, that's pretty awesome right there. I mean, you look at those finishes, all 4 in the top 10. Stephen Nasse has the worst finish and the only one outside the top 5. So yeah, those are the types of race finishes we like. All right, still no race wins after 4 races, and race 4 was not good for us overall as a team. We just did not bring the right package for that race for sure. But then we come back in race 5 with amazing results. In fact, at the end of the first 5 races, is anybody really surprised that Bubba Pollard is in the lead in points? You shouldn't be. All 4 of our drivers are doing really well so far. But yeah, this is doing really nothing to help my decision making about who should have the ability to move up. Yeah, this is not helping me at all. The first 5 races are showing me that these guys are very close. So as we continue to run races, this did not help out Sammy at all. These last 2 races, 23rd and 30th, yeah, that's certainly not helping out. But you notice in race number 7, we did get our first team win of the season by virtue of Stephen Nasse. So let's run the final few races to get to that first 10, and then we will take a quick look at exactly where things are halfway through the season. So race 8, okay. All right, much better for Sammy there, but it's hard for him to make up any ground because Carson is also in the top 5 there. Race number 9, okay, not terrible, but not exactly the race finishes we were looking at for our drivers. And then finally, race number 10, that is certainly not what we're looking for. So after the first 10 races, halfway through the Asphalt Super Late Model season, no surprise, Bubba Pollard doing exactly what Bubba Pollard always does. He's consistent and he is good. So he leads the points so far, even though he has yet to bring home a victory. That tells you exactly what type of consistent season he is having so far. Stephen Nasse, 7th in points, and he does have our lone team victory so far. But then we get down to the 2 who we're trying to figure out who's going to move up. Carson Kvapil and Sammy Smith. Well, it's really no contest right now. 3rd in points, 14th in points. If they're close, the nod goes to Sammy because of his past performance. But right now, this is just not close. This is not a good season for Sammy thus far. We're only halfway. There is plenty of time. If he goes on a run like we saw with Kaylee Bryson in the midgets and then into the dirt super lates, then he can put up some serious points very quickly. Or if he turns into Bubba Pollard for the last half of the season, he's going to be doing just fine. So that's really what it comes down to for me. Now, ultimately, we can move them all up if we want to, but right now, there's only room for one of these 2 guys. So let's see what we get as we finish off the season. So once again, I am going to scroll over, and I'll tell you what, before I do that, let me go ahead and highlight all 4 of these guys. All right, so that's plenty far, right about there. That way we can see their season point standings, wins, top 5s, and so forth. All right, so let's generate race number 12. Okay, man, that is very good. Not so much for Sammy, though. Oh, Sammy Smith. Yeah, he's not having fun right now. He's not sure. At this point, he's got to be looking around like, I don't even know what happened so far in this season. So after 15 races, we're sitting here 3, 4, and 5, and then 13th. That is, oof. I hate that for Sammy. That is not what he was looking for, and certainly not what I expected for him. But he's still got, well, now he's got 4 more races to go in the season. So let's see if he can finish off strong. 6th place, 5th place. Okay, not bad. He's coming back a little bit. But is it too little, too late? We'll have to see. We've got some decisions to make. And after 20 races, let's see what we've got. So the odd thing is, we only come home with 1 team victory for the entire season. If you take a look up at the top of the screen, the other Tier 1 teams, well, we got 5 victories, 4 victories. I mean, it is extremely hard. Excuse me. Season standing, I should say. But if you look at these victories, we got 4 victories, 2 victories, 2 victories. I mean, it's hard to compete for points championships when you don't have the victories. So ultimately, Bubba didn't quite come home with the points championship. He didn't miss it by a whole lot, but the lack of victories ultimately, I think, is what brought him down to 2nd. But take a look. 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 10th. So at this point, here's the way I'm going to look at this. Now, obviously, if Bubba Pollard were in a different situation, he's easily the one that moves up. Easily. But with all things considered, between Carson and Sammy, the way I look at it is this. Carson finally got that last upgrade to his driver level to put him on par with Sammy this time. And once he did, he put on a show, finishing 3rd in points and having a very good season. Very consistent season overall. And that's hard for me to ignore. So that means the spot goes to Carson. It might have been a little bit different had they been on equal footing the entire time. Maybe Sammy's past performance would have been enough, but the fact that we just did an upgrade for Carson and he took full advantage, that is what's going to ultimately weigh it in his favor. All right, so now we know the drivers that are going to move up to ARCA. We know the 4 drivers. The question is, do we have enough money to make it all happen? Because remember, before we even get into the race results, as we get ready to end today's video, because I'll take care of that offline, and then when we come back together next time, we will get busy moving into the ARCA series. But as we finish up, think about this. We are going to have to make some purchases. So if we go over to series number 4, which is the ARCA series for us, here's what all we're going to have to do in order to get our drivers here. We're going to have to make the purchases. Remember, we're going straight to a 4-car team. We're not starting off with 1 or 2 cars. So we're going to need about $4.2 million just for the facilities. Then we're going to have to purchase some chassis, but not just 1 chassis anymore. Here, we're going to need 3 chassis. Actually, we really need 4, because you do need a super speedway chassis because they do run at Daytona. Then you're also going to need your downforce or your speedway chassis. You're going to need a dirt chassis, and you're going to need short track chassis. You could really throw in maybe even 5 chassis. We'll stick with 4 probably, but that's going to be a lot of money. I mean, it's $730,000 just to get 1 chassis for each of them. Now multiply that by 4. You're looking at a lot of money to do that. But beyond that, then remember that we've got to go over to driver training, and we have to improve their levels, because now we have to get them even better. Now for ARCA, we really don't have to do that, because the ARCA series is going to be 16 through 20 as far as the driver levels. But we're going to have that expense coming up. So yeah, we don't quite have to worry about that just yet. I don't think we do for all of them. I forget what driver level. Yeah, we do have some work to do here with our dirt drivers because they're at 21. So we're going to have to get them all the way up to 16 at some point. Can we do it all at one time, or are we going to have to sort of wait until we've got some money along the way? We'll have to see. But we're going to spend in our next video a lot of money, and that's going to be the theme moving forward. Up until now, we have been, if we scroll our way back over to the home screen, we've been in some of the lower tier series, which means that it doesn't take quite as much money to get up to the max abilities for our drivers and or our team, but we're going to be spending a lot of money to get to where we want to be in ARCA. And remember, we haven't even talked about the relative performance adjustments yet that we're going to be putting in here. Ultimately, we'll need to be getting up around 40 if we want to compete in the ARCA series. We haven't even talked about how much money that's going to be. So as much money as we have right now, and of course, as much money as we're going to have once I get done adding in all of our finishes from this season, we're going to turn around and spend probably all of it and then need more in our next video. So that is going to do it for today. A lot of drama in today's video. I was getting very tense trying to figure out who was going to make it going forward into the ARCA series. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and stick around for more Knee Pit Gaming Career Experience.